Hi everyone, my name is Sabeena and I'm from Asian International School. I graduated in 2013 and I'm currently doing my Masters at the University of Melbourne. I initially went to the University of Melbourne in 2014 to start my Bachelor's of Arts, majoring in both Criminology and Political Science. I graduated in 2016 and I'm currently, like I said before, doing my Masters and hopefully will be graduating in June next year. So I've been asked why I chose the University of Melbourne, and honestly I don't really have a good answer for you because it was completely impulsive. Australia was never on the cards. I was actually leaning towards the United States, but didn't really feel comfortable just because it was so far away from home. So Australia just became a good choice. It was close enough to home, but far enough to get the exposure I really needed. So when I initially applied, I only applied to the University of Melbourne. I didn't consider any of the other universities, despite them having a large Sri Lankan student population. The reason I chose Melbourne Uni is because it's the #1 university in Australia, which is obviously the biggest plus point for me. Also, I think it ranks in the top 20 in the world, which is obviously just another reason for me to be attracted to the university. Besides that, I did a lot of research and I was looking at other reasons for me to choose the university over the others. And I think one of the biggest things for me was also the campus life. So the University of Melbourne is situated in one campus block. So you don't have multiple buildings. It's just almost one university city for the campus itself, which I loved because it meant that I felt like I belonged somewhere. I enter and exit the same way. That's also one of the things that really attracted me to the university. I graduated in 2016 from my Bachelor's. I immediately applied for my Master's in Criminology. I didn't expect to get accepted so quickly, but I think within like a month I got my acceptance letter and I was like, okay, I'm back again in Melbourne. A lot of people take a few months off just to get some work experience, but I was very keen to get my academic career out of the way so I could start working ASAP. I think the biggest question I've been asked is why I chose criminology. Initially, I've always wanted to do criminal law, but my parents weren't so happy because they felt like it was a bit too aggressive for a girl. That's our mindset, a Sri Lankan mindset. But I was adamant. I just wanted to do something related to criminology, and I was lucky enough to find this side of criminology, which is the social side. I think growing up with our civil war and all of that, I really wanted to know the alternate perspective. So we always hear the victim story. I wanted to know what the perpetrators had to say for themselves. So when I went to Melbourne, I was graced with the most amazing lecturers, some from Oxford, from Cambridge, Harvard, and it was an absolute privilege to be in their company basically and have them speak to me about issues that are so close to home. So we also did focus on the Sri Lankan Civil War, which was amazing for me. I did it as my case studies multiple times. So criminology is something that I just breathed every day because it was so close to my heart, so close to home. I was able to come back home and look at our culture and society in a different eye as well, because I had a perspective that I wouldn't have got if I was sitting here in a lecture theatre here, because my personal opinion is that it would have been a bit of a biased understanding of what happened. Other than that, political science was not something I was too interested in. I chose it because I thought it was a nice complement to criminology, but the more I studied it, the less interested I was, and it ended up kind of getting pushed to a side. When I applied for my Master's, I knew instantly that I wanted to master in criminology. It was an easy decision. I didn't have to put much thought into it, and I got accepted pretty quickly as well. Doing my Master's at the university was just the most obvious choice. I had spent 3 years already doing my Bachelor's. What was another 1.5 years at the University of Melbourne, especially because it had been a completely positive experience. Thankfully, I have completed now nearly 5 years at the University of Melbourne, so that's 5 years away from home as well. I'm eager to come back home, but obviously I have to think of things like career prospects and things related to my future career in criminology, and I think a lot of people have told me that the opportunities in Melbourne are probably going to be a lot more than the opportunities here, but that's something I will think about only after I graduate. If someone were to ask me what the best thing about my academic career has been thus far, it would have to be my internship opportunity. So in July of this year, I was extremely lucky to apply and get accepted into the Human Rights Centre in Melbourne. Basically what that is it's an internship, so I'm not paid, but the experience is invaluable. I don't think any amount of money can really match up to the knowledge that I'm taking back with me. The greatest thing is that my supervisors at the centre have given me complete autonomy, so I can do absolutely anything I want. So I'm allowed to start a project that's close to my own interests, and what I'm going to be talking about has to do with language and the way language influences our understanding of criminals, terrorists, violence in general. So I'm currently doing my research in Victoria, focusing on the Victorian public, and I am hopefully going to release actually a publication next year with my project, which might be published in journals and obviously online as well. I think that's probably the most amazing experience for me, because I don't think I would ever have been able to get that opportunity being a fresh graduate. It only came to me because I was a student at the university and because this was an internship that was offered to me through my program. Another opportunity I got while doing my bachelor's was to do with the United Nations. So I was accepted along with I think 6 other students to actually fly out to New York and go to the United Nations for a week internship. So what we did was we sat at the United Nations at the headquarters, and we watched in on how everything works and the practical side of it, as opposed to just sitting in our lecture halls and reading about the process. As you can imagine, it was an experience out of this world, going to New York with a couple of friends, going to the United Nations. It was amazing. It was only a week. It went by really quickly. We stayed at the Sheraton in Times Square. The whole experience was amazing. I don't think any other university or any other institution would have offered me something like that. That was it was a very proud moment, not just for me, but for my family as well. You know, for Sri Lankan parent to say my daughter went to the UN. It was great. It was a great experience, and I'm thankful for the university for actually choosing me and allowing me to have that experience. When I was in school, I was actually the school's yearbook editor. Along with being the school's yearbook editor, I was editor of Commerce Union as well. So I had a lot of posts to do with editing, proofreading, basically compiling books. Writing is one of my passions. I also wrote for the Commonwealth essay competition and placed second in the world, so I got the silver award, and I took all of those qualifications to Melbourne. And what happened there was, when I told people that I have all of these qualifications, they grabbed me, they loved it, and I actually sat on the committee for our university's magazine as well. So I sat as an editor and a proofreader. So these are kind of the extracurriculars I was involved in. I was also the editor for the Islamic Society, so I did their magazine as well. I helped proofread multiple assignments. I have helped tutor people at university. These are the extracurricular activities I've been involved with. Other fun stuff have been that I was on the university's radio as well. That was short-lived, only probably a couple of weeks, when I realized I'm not very good at public speaking. I didn't really enjoy that, but I just did it for the fun of it, because it's important to kind of get yourself out there and just get out of your comfort zone, because otherwise you're just going to be holed up in your apartment making trips to and from uni and to the library. So I made it a point to really move with the people there and get to know different people from different cultures, and the best way to do that was to join any club in society. Besides that, I also worked at the university's call center as a student caller for our campaign. So basically I called up alumni on a daily basis and asked them for funds. Interesting and difficult at the same time, but obviously another experience I loved. I also got paid for that. So university salaries are amazing. You get paid incredible amounts, hourly rates, which are really good for you, because you can put that aside for utilities, rent and stuff like that. Take the pressure off your parents a little bit. So basically, whatever your whims and fancies, the university has a place for all of you, regardless of your interests, regardless of where you're from. If you're quieter, they've got activities for you, such as like the chocolate club if you're into sweets, that is, and just really anything. And you also have the choice to build your own clubs and societies, which means that you can completely harness your own interests and bring something unique to the campus. So before I wrap up, I've been asked to give potential students, potentially international students, some advice on the whole experience. And I'm honestly speaking from the bottom of my heart when I say, don't be afraid. When I initially went to Melbourne, I spent months in my apartment literally just looking for flights to come back home. But you have to bear the storm and just go through with it. Just trust me on this. If there's anything, like even my sister actually is going through Educate to the University of Melbourne. She applied through them and she's got accepted, and even she's having second thoughts. But my biggest advice to anyone is just trust me when I say bear the storm. It's going to get better. It has to get better, especially once you start engaging with your studies and find new friends. The whole experience becomes one that you would never want to miss. Finally, Educate. Oh my God, I don't know where to start. When I first came in, I remember asking them, like, how do I even begin? Like, what's the application process like? And everyone treated me like a little child. They were so helpful every step of the way. I was given some support. And it was amazing because I knew I wasn't alone, and I knew I wasn't actually going to mess up because I had so much experience surrounding me, which is why I even told my sister to go to Educate, because I knew there wouldn't be a tiny detail missed. Everything is done from your visa application to just student life in general. They advise you on everything.